The Arctic town known as the polar bear capital of the world is seeing declining numbers because of the impact of climate change. For hundreds of years, residents in one town in northern Canada have lived alongside their polar bear neighbours, but scientists are warning that climate change could spell danger.
Yeah, as the temperature rises and melts the ice, polar bears need to hunt seals. They're being forced to spend more time on land, and that brings them closer to people.
Conservation scientists and tourists flock to Churchill every year to see the predators. And our science correspondent Victoria Gill has been along there too.
Churchill, Manitoba, on the edge of the Canadian Arctic. There's a reason they call this place the polar bear capital of the world.
We were just driving along the road just outside of Churchill by the bay, and in these rocks there's a polar bear just over here. You can see now why you do not go in these rocks. There are just so many places where these bears can just emerge from and hide, and he's completely silent.
This is a town where people have learned to coexist with polar bears, because as the sea ice forms here on the Hudson Bay, the bears gather along the shore, waiting for this marine hunting platform to freeze and solidify. That brings both tourists and polar bear scientists here.
So the polar bears are starting to gather in this area because there's going to be sea ice here first. And for polar bears, sea ice means food. It gives them access to their main prey, seals. And they're probably very excited for a big meal of seal blubber because they really haven't been eating much all summer long on land.
But as scientists studying these polar bears have discovered, rising temperatures and a loss of sea ice mean that the bears here are now waiting longer for that big meal.
The longer they're on shore, the longer they're fasting, and the longer they might need to start looking for alternative sources of energy and food, and sometimes those sources are us.
A lack of food, scientists say, has caused the western Hudson Bay polar bear population to crash.
So we had about 1,200 polar bears here in the 1980s, and now we have closer to about 618. So we've lost almost about 50% of these polar bears in the last several decades. And we've tied that to these bears are on land about a month longer than their grandparents were.
But while the bear population here is shrinking, the animals are also getting hungrier, and they're spending more time on land, where people live. That poses a particular challenge for Churchill and for the rangers who operate its Polar Bear Alert program.
I came down this trail and I caught him up on this deck. It was testing the door.
What did you do?
So at that point you haze them, right? You use your vehicle, horns, cracker shells, and you chase them in a desirable direction, which in this case would be away from town.
This is a place that takes pride in setting an example for how humans can coexist with these big predators. Everyone here that we've spoken to is very aware of it all the time. They take care of each other and they take care of themselves. They know not to walk alone at night. They know not to do things that would put them in a dangerous situation. And should we go? I can hear cracker shots over there. That means that they may be moving a bear. There's a bear there, it's crossing the road. We heard crackers going off, and now the Polar Bear Alert team are moving around, so we're gonna get back in the car. So you can just see it through the trees there. We could see the Polar Bear Alert team's quad bikes and their trucks moving the bear along. They call it hazing it. Essentially it's chasing it away, but they need to chase it away in the right direction so that it's moving away from people.
The bear's existence is tied to the sea ice. But as the climate changes here, ways of life that have existed for thousands of years are shifting with it. People are adapting. Dave Daly has raced sled dogs thousands of miles across the Arctic. His family business now offers much shorter trips to Churchill visitors.
I think that what I've seen is that the weather has become very unpredictable. You don't know what you're going to get.
Must make it hard to do what you do then, because you want to
we've
be
adapted.
out in the weather. And
we've adapted. I have,
you know,
I have my sleds that I designed to go on the snow, and then I built 4 carts that mimic the sleighs but on wheels.
The lengthening period when the bay here is ice-free and becomes open water is set to transform Churchill's port in particular. The port is currently closed for 9 months of the year, but less ice could extend the length of time that ships can safely come and go. That's why the new marine observatory that opened this year is studying water from the bay inside the lab.
The bay is open water, essentially, on average, about 5 months a year, and it's on its trajectory to become all year round. And my colleague right there, and he's actually working specifically on improving the projection of ice conditions to facilitate, to help to make better decisions on the shipping season.
This is a town preparing for a future without sea ice in the bay. The town's mayor, Mike Spence, says that could present opportunities.
What do you think this place could look like in 10 years' time?
It'll be a bustling port. The future looks bright.
The fate of the polar bears, of the polar bear capital of the world, though, depends on us and whether we can rein in rising temperatures and preserve the ice that they depend on.
We can keep Arctic sea ice in the north and protect the species as a whole. Sea ice is so much more than just like frozen ocean. It really is. It's a garden, it's a platform, it's access to food, it's life, really.
Victoria Gill, BBC News in Churchill, Manitoba.